Overview for Psalms. Purpose. The Psalms were written as expressions of praise, worship, and petition, forming a divinely inspired collection of devotions, meditations, and songs for the people of Israel. Authors: David, 73 Psalms. Asaph, 12 Psalms. The sons of Korah, 9 Psalms. Solomon, 2 Psalms, and several others. 51 of the Psalms are not attributed to any author. Date written: over about 1,000 years between the time of Moses, approximately 1520 BC, until after the return of the southern kingdom from Babylonian captivity, approximately 445 BC. History. The Psalms reflect the theology of Israel from the beginning of the nation until after the Babylonian exile. In terms of chronological sequence, the psalm attributed to Moses, Psalm 90, is the earliest. It likely provided a medium of praise and a form of prayer for the people of Israel during the nation's formative period. The Davidic Psalms reflect different periods of the author's life. During Israel's golden age under King Solomon, the songs which David sang began to be a part of the nation's worship. The singing of the Psalms was a prominent feature in the celebration of the great national feasts. These were the praise songs of Isaiah and Jeremiah, along with the other prophets. It was with psalms that Jehoshaphat and Hezekiah inaugurated their reforms and celebrated their victories. The Psalms brought comfort and hope to the exiles in Babylon. Chronologically, the last psalm is probably Psalm 137. It is a song of lament, clearly written during the days when the Hebrews were being held captive by the Babylonians. Unique features. The book of Psalms is the longest book in the Bible, and it contains both the longest and shortest chapters, Psalms 119 and 117 respectively. Setting. The book of Psalms gives insight into the true nature of religion in Old Testament times, for this collection of songs were a vital part of the public and private worship of ancient Israel. Chanted by the Levitical choirs at the time of the morning and evening sacrifice, the people learned the lyrics and then repeated them in the less formal worship of the home. Handed down from father to son, they became a familiar thread binding the Jewish people together. God's people rejoiced and lamented through these poetic expressions, which mirrored real-life situations and spiritual experience at every level of society. The Psalms also offer meaningful insights into human nature. Summary. The Hebrew title for the Book of Psalms is translated Book of Praises. The Greek translation of the Old Testament, Septuagint, title used psalmos, a word meaning a poem sung to the accompaniment of a musical instrument. The Book of Psalms contains 150 chapters which are divided into 5 sections or books, each ending with a doxology. Psalms 1 through 41, Book 1, Psalms 42 through 72, Book 2, Psalms 73 through 89, Book 3, Psalms 90 through 106, Book 4, and Psalms 107 through 150, Book 5. Jewish tradition compares these 5 books to the Pentateuch, the first 5 books of the Bible authored by Moses. The Psalms deal with such subjects as God and His creation, war, worship, wisdom, sin and evil, judgment, justice, and the coming of the Messiah. Bible scholars have categorized the Psalms in various ways. Most recognize these main groupings: alphabetic or acrostic psalms, in which the initial letter of each stanza follows a certain pattern; ethical psalms, which teach moral principles; hallelujah psalms, which are songs of praise beginning and or ending with hallelujah or praise Jehovah. Historical psalms, which trace God's dealings with His people. Imprecatory psalms, which invoke God's judgment upon one's enemies. Messianic psalms, which point to the coming Redeemer. Penitential psalms, which express sorrow for sin. Songs of ascent or degrees, which some scholars suggest were sung by pilgrims on the way to Jerusalem to observe the feasts. Psalms of suffering or lament, which are the outpourings of authors who were enduring difficult circumstances. Psalms of thanksgiving, which express gratitude for blessings received. Approximately 2/3 of the Psalms have superscriptions or titles, which were probably added at a later date by an editor or group of editors of the Psalms. Some describe the nature of the psalm, for example, song, prayer, praise, or the Hebrew words such as maskil, miktam, and shugayon. Some relate to the musical setting, such as a dedication to the chief musician, allusion to musical instrument on which the psalm was to be performed, neganoth, guitar, etc., or a tune to which they were to be sung. Others refer to the liturgical use of the psalm, for example, that it was to be sung on the Sabbath or at a dedication. Some of the psalms indicate authorship in the title. There are over 400 quotes from, or allusions to, the book of Psalms in the New Testament. Jesus quoted from the Psalms, and references are also found in the book of Acts and in Paul's writings. Psalms 1:1 through 4:8. Devotional focus verse. I will both lay me down in peace and sleep, for thou, Lord, only makest me dwell in safety. Psalm 4:8. Have you ever had a night when you tossed and turned in bed for what seemed like hours? Perhaps you found yourself glancing repeatedly at the clock, wondering why you could not seem to doze off. Countless factors can interfere with a good night's sleep, from pressure at work and family responsibilities to unexpected challenges such as layoffs, relationship issues, or illnesses. It's no wonder that quality sleep is sometimes elusive. If we are troubled, anxious, or encumbered with cares, how can we truly rest? Sleep plays an important role in our physical well-being. Studies have revealed that the human body typically needs 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night. If our bodies do not get enough rest, our metabolisms slow down and our appetites increase. Brain functions are also hindered. Focus, physical energy, and mood all take a hit. Our days are much more difficult when our nights are restless. God made our bodies to require recharging, and that occurs during a night of good sleep. While proper nutrition, exercise, and other factors also influence the health of our bodies, nothing can take the place of proper rest. In Psalm 4, David stated that he could lie down in peace and sleep because the Lord gave him security. When David wrote this song, he was experiencing trouble. Perhaps it was composed while he was suffering from the rebellion of his son Absalom, who was determined to destroy his own father and usurp David's authority in the kingdom. Or it may have been written during a time of distress due to crop failures. Whatever the case, David proved that the godly can find peace in the Lord even when outward circumstances are perilous. The psalmist knew that he could trust God, and this assurance allowed him to state, I will both lay me down in peace and sleep, for thou, Lord, only makest me dwell in safety. Although we might not be able to control all of the factors that could interfere with our rest, we can adopt one habit that is sure to encourage better sleep. Like David, we can rejoice in God's care for us. We can purpose to release our problems to God and choose not to dwell upon the troubles and what-ifs of life. The Psalms are full of assurances of God's presence, and what a basis that provides for restful sleep. As we center our thoughts on Him, He can provide us with the security we need to sleep peacefully and well. Background information. The book of Psalms, as originally written in Hebrew, was divided into 5 subgroups, with Book 1 being comprised of Psalms 1 through 41. All of the Psalms in Book 1 are attributed to David except Psalms 1, 10, and 33. Psalm 1. Although Psalm 1 was not specifically written as an introduction to the whole collection of Psalms, it sets the tone for them. It is a wisdom psalm, offering a sharp contrast between the righteous and the ungodly. Verses 1 through 3 relate to the behavior of the righteous man and emphasize that avoiding the influence of the ungodly will bring blessing. The meaning of the law of the Lord in verse 2 goes far beyond a set of rules or legal requirements. It indicates the whole manner of life taught by Moses and the prophets, and is synonymous with the word of the Lord. In verses 4 through 6, the ungodly are contrasted with the righteous, and are compared to the worthless chaff scattered by the wind during harvest. Psalm 2. Although Psalm 2 is untitled, Acts 4:25 attributes authorship to David. It is classified as a royal or messianic psalm. While the psalms categorized in this manner may have been associated with coronation or other kingly ceremonies, in New Testament writings they are frequently linked to Jesus Christ, the King of Kings. For example, the Hebrew meaning of the word translated anointed in verse 2 is Messiah, a clear reference to Jesus Christ. This meaning is supported by Acts 4:26. The theme of Psalm 2 is man's sinful rebellion against God. The heathen in verse 1 are the Gentile nations, non-Israelites who had assembled with the intent of insurrection against the true God. The psalmist's reference to God's laughter in verse 4 does not indicate humor, but rather God's derision at man's willful rebellion against Him. Verses 6 through 9 contain messianic references to Jesus and His future millennial reign in Jerusalem, when He will rule supremely. In verses 10 through 11, the psalmist exhorted the rulers of the world to exercise wisdom by reverencing the Lord. In David's time, a kiss indicated respect for one of superior rank, so verse 12 implies that honoring the Messiah's supreme eminence will prevent his wrath from being poured out. Psalm 3. Psalm 3 is classified as a song of lament, and is a mourning prayer written by King David as he fled from his son Absalom's treachery. It is divided into 4 stanzas, with all but the 3rd stanza ending in the word Selah, which indicates a pause for contemplation. Verses 1 through 2 provide David's perspective regarding the dissension that surrounded him. Verses 3 through 4 mark a turning point in his song. David turned his eyes from his adversaries to the character of God and affirmed his confidence that God had heard his prayer and would intervene. Verses 5 through 6 reveal the peace and sustenance the psalmist experienced during this difficult time. In verses 7 through 8, David reflected on previous victories, concluding that only God is able to provide deliverance. He also conveyed his belief that God would continue to bless His people even in times of rebellion. Psalm 4. David addressed Psalm 4 to the chief musician on Neginoth. This inscription gave direction for the musical accompaniment of the psalm, as Neginoth has been interpreted on stringed instruments. It is an evening prayer, and is traditionally associated with Psalm 3, which was a morning prayer written during Absalom's revolt. Like Psalm 3, Psalm 4 has 4 stanzas. Verses 1 through 2 are a plea for God to hear David's prayer and grant mercy, while acknowledging God's provision in previous times of distress. The Hebrew phrase, "Ye sons of men," in verse 2, denoted men of prominent status. David questioned how long they would disgrace the kingdom with their treachery and falsehoods. Verses 3 through 6 express the psalmist's confidence that God would respond to his prayers. He urged the reputable men to refrain from letting their emotions lead to sin, but rather to meditate on their deeds when pillowing their head at night, to obediently offer sacrifices, and to trust in the Lord. In verses 7 through 8, David stated that the gladness God had planted in his heart was greater than the joy of a bountiful harvest, and his sleep would be peaceful, knowing that God would take care of him. Conclusion. To enjoy the blessings and benefits of quality sleep, we need to be sure that we have handed over our cares to God and are resting securely in Him.
Psalm 1. Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth his fruit in his season, his leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. The ungodly are not so, but are like the chaff which the wind driveth away. Therefore the ungodly shall not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. For the Lord knoweth the way of the righteous, but the way of the ungodly shall perish. Psalm 2. Why do the heathen rage, and the people imagine a vain thing? The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together, against the Lord, and against his anointed, saying, Let us break their bands asunder, and cast away their cords from us. He that sitteth in the heavens shall laugh, the Lord shall have them in derision. Then shall he speak unto them in his wrath, and vex them in his sore displeasure. Yet have I set my king upon my holy hill of Zion. I will declare the decree, the Lord hath said unto me, Thou art my son, this day have I begotten thee. Ask of me, and I shall give thee the heathen for thine inheritance, and the uttermost parts of the earth for thy possession. Thou shalt break them with a rod of iron, thou shalt dash them in pieces like a potter's vessel. Be wise now therefore, O ye kings, be instructed, ye judges of the earth. Serve the Lord with fear, and rejoice with trembling. Kiss the Son, lest he be angry, and ye perish from the way, when his wrath is kindled but a little. Blessed are all they that put their trust in him. Psalm 3. Lord, how are they increased that trouble me? Many are they that rise up against me. Many there be which say of my soul, There is no help for him in God. Selah. But thou, O Lord, art a shield for me, my glory, and the lifter up of mine head. I cried unto the Lord with my voice, and he heard me out of his holy hill. Selah. I laid me down and slept, I awaked, for the Lord sustained me. I will not be afraid of 10,000s of people, that have set themselves against me round about. Arise, O Lord, save me, O my God, for thou hast smitten all mine enemies upon the cheekbone, thou hast broken the teeth of the ungodly. Salvation belongeth unto the Lord, thy blessing is upon thy people. Selah. Psalm 4. Hear me when I call, O God of my righteousness, thou hast enlarged me when I was in distress, have mercy upon me, and hear my prayer. O ye sons of men, how long will ye turn my glory into shame? How long will ye love vanity, and seek after leasing? Selah. But know that the Lord hath set apart him that is godly for himself, the Lord will hear when I call unto him. Stand in awe, and sin not, commune with your own heart upon your bed, and be still. Selah. Offer the sacrifices of righteousness, and put your trust in the Lord. There be many that say, Who will show us any good? Lord, Lift thou up the light of thy countenance upon us. Thou hast put gladness in my heart, more than in the time that their corn and their wine increased. I will both lay me down in peace, and sleep, for thou, Lord, only makest me dwell in safety.